right, everybody. Y'all get a private viewing tonight. How does that sound? Kind of nice. You don't have to be scared. You can come up front too. But we would like to thank everybody for coming out. We know it's could be a challenge to get down here. It's also been a little bit interesting. Some of you may know, but Jonathan is been sick in the hospital. He's the director of the gallery, and we've all been really looking forward to having him more part of this. Lewis, welcome. Tonight's no different than any other nights that we have these talks. We have some really great talent that comes in, and we try to build this community that keeps going so that we can all benefit from each of us being here. And we've got some great people, past, present, and coming up in the future. So we need to pay attention to all of it and be here to help this community grow. So without saying much else, I'm going to invite Oscar Fuentes up. He is the Biscayne poet.
All right. Thank you for having me, for having us. I'm here with Jesse Katz, upright bass. He also plays the other electric bass as well. And we're going to do a few original improvised poems with the upright bass. And we'll do those straight through. And then we'll get into the conversation about each piece if you guys like. So this first piece is called it's actually a two pieces in one, right? It's about Biscayne Bay, the beauty of Biscayne Bay, and about a character that falls in love with the shadow of death. A raven-haired beauty that lives beneath the waters of Biscayne Bay. And then he misses New York City, and he wants to go back to Manhattan. And he wants to go back to Manhattan, to the Brooklyn Bridge, where he might just jump off the bridge. A little dark, dark piece, but it goes like this. He was last seen walking alone with her, not fearing her danger. Now the sun from tower to tower, the hammers, he would say to her, flirting and walking with Lady Death, and she would listen. Because yesterday in my verse, I heard the clappings of your bony palms, and you gave eyes to my song and an edge to my tragic life. I will sing to you the flesh you don't have, your missing eyes, the red lips that used to get kisses. Today and from here forth, my sweetness, death of mine. Oh, how good with you alone. How good with you alone with these blowing winds of Biscayne, my Biscayne. He would say to her from rocks and dreams on the bay, a sickness of the poet. A fountain with a falling water would cry and eternally would say the crime was on Biscayne. His Biscayne. That's why I must revisit Manhattan soon. The Brooklyn Bridge awaits. The sound and smoke of the passing cars below me, under me. I must go. I love you. And although I don't recall ever meeting you, my parents, they swear that when I was just 3, I crawled on over through you and into Brooklyn, I went crying. I must revisit Manhattan. And from Brooklyn to Manhattan, I'm going to walk on the Brooklyn Bridge and put all of those myths to a test and see if it's true that whenever you're walking through the middle towers, something bigger than you takes over your mind and you feel like jumping off the Brooklyn Bridge. But first, I must walk into Manhattan before I get called into disappearance. I must revisit Manhattan. And with all my friends, I will drink heavily and head on back to those Gothic exits and entrances and see if it's true. And see if it's true. And no one lives to tell the story. Ah, the Brooklyn Bridge. How perfect. So that's the Brooklyn Bridge. All right, all right, all right. Yeah, that's, we actually ended up, that was an inspiration poem for a short film that we did called Biscayne Blues. And it was about a poet who falls in love with the shadow of death, a raven-haired beauty that lives beneath the waters of Biscayne Bay. And he is inspired by these nymphs that live in Biscayne Bay, and he invites his band members to go on his classic 1974 Dodge Dart, 80 miles per hour on Biscayne Boulevard, over the Juliet Tuttle, and drives off the bridge into the water and visits the underworld. And all the nymphs really come swimming towards the car with black roses. And we resurface off the bay. Actually, Luis Valle here in the audience played the role of death. And he was on a paddleboard, dressed as death himself. And that was a lot of fun. That was a few years ago. And so the poetry combines well with filmmaking. And of course, with a bunch of other genres, such as dance and live music, of course. So, what do you think? Let's do another piece. This one has become a staple piece of most of my performances. Everywhere I go, I always get this one requested, and it's a lot of people's favorites. Maybe because it has to do with heartbreak and loss, but also with a lot of love. And this one, some of you might be extremely sick of this one, but this one is called Fish Hooks. And it goes like this. So here I am, outside my house, catching some fresh air. And right before my very eyes, quietly, silently, 1,000 flowers are blooming all around me. I run back inside the house, and even the floor is blooming. It's so unusual. New, tender, pink, moist. I give her a kiss and a hug, hello. And above her head, in a glass sky, the moon hangs blue and fragrant, as if hanging from some invisible branch. I point at the moon and say, look, our moon. She looks at the moon and smiles, and then she looks at me and I smile. Melting inside. I'm in my room, she's sitting on my bed, I'm on the floor, my arms around her legs, my head in her lap, and we're both quiet. Silence. I can hear my pulse. I feel that everything that defines me in space is melting, vanishing. I'm a crystal dissolving in her lap. I'm getting smaller, larger, wider, off the scale because she's no longer herself. She's the whole universe. And for 1 second, her and my bed and the floor and the blooming flowers of our love shot through the sky and hit the moon with joy. We are one, all that is in me, with me, listening to the beating of my pulse and flying across the blessed second. I tried to tell her in stupid, confused, drowned words that I am a crystal and that is why the door is in me and that's why I can hear how happy the chair is, but such nonsense comes out when I stop talking. I'm ashamed. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed. I'm embarrassed. I don't know what I'm saying. I tell her I'm talking such nonsense. And then she tells me, Oscar, what makes you think nonsense is bad? If they nurtured and cared for human nonsense the way they did with intelligence throughout the ages, then nonsense would be something of special value. And for nonsense alone, Oscar, for what you did yesterday at the bay, I love you even more. She took my face, all of me, between her palms. She lifted my head up, sweet, sharp, white teeth. And then another smile. In the open space of my room, she was like a bee. She had both honey and a sting. There's a stupid smile in my face. I look into her eyes, now one, now the other, seeing myself in each. I'm tiny, minuscule, locked inside her talking eyes, and then more bees. Lips, the sweet pain of blooming. Inside each of us, there's an invisible metronome that's ticking away quietly. But we never have to look at a clock to know the exact time to within 5 minutes. But our metronomes had stopped and we didn't know how much time had passed by, and time had passed by. We only had 20 minutes, but minutes, what are they? Nothing but stumpy, short, little things that come so fast and quiet. We were now running. I had so much to tell her, all of myself. About the love letter I had written for her, about the beauty of my childhood, about my first day of elementary school, about my love for writing and for music, about my father and his love for bees. But she was already dressed and kissing me goodbye. For 1 second, the whole length of her body touched me. I wanted to hold on to her tight and never let go. She walks to her car, and I see the familiar movement of hers, my eyes wanting to pop out of my face. Following her, begging her to stay. I'm alone now, and all that is left of her is the 100 kisses she left on my body. The print of her feet on my floor, her perfume lingering in my room. And the disappearing wings on my back that slowly bring me back down to the floor. And the hint of the yellow pollen of certain flowers that grow only when she's next to me. That and the questions that stick in me like fish hooks. Like fish hooks. All right, all right, all right, Jesse. Let's give it up for Jesse. Wow, such a beautiful instrument. I love its poetry. Completely becomes so flexible and different when you add the upright bass.
Definitely helps to bring that kind of soul into things, doesn't it?
Yeah. It just feels. It's a no-brainer if it makes sense. This next piece. Was inspired by a movie. You guys ever seen that movie? What's it called? Clown, or The Clown? No? Okay, maybe I have the wrong name. But this piece is called The Killer Clown, and it has to do with murder in the streets of Biscayne Boulevard. And we're going to improvise it and have fun with it. And it goes like this. The clown did not hesitate. He stabbed his victim once again and again. There are no true friends in the circus. The clown with the tattooed face is heard laughing from across Biscayne. Look at that guy cry. Look at that guy jump and clown around. Oh wait, it's a real one. It's a real fucking clown. Intelligent bastard. The killer would perform for his victims, get their attention, then he'd jump on those watching. Just the way pit bulls do when they're afraid. They jump and in the air laughing barks float around and bounce off witnessing walls that wait for the next event. The sun came and went. The clown had his rest. The city now sleeps. The moon is full and warm blood drips from that knife once again. The killer felt tired after a couple of stabs, so he decides to have a drink at that usual pub. Everyone in that place used to work in the circus with him. Everyone in that place knows who he is. Everybody gets along in that pub, and at a given moment of the night, mingling clowns exchange weapons and teach each other new effective tricks. A prostitute patrols her side of the street. Her shoes are red and her body from far looks very sweet. Poor thing, she's being amused by one of those clowns that break dance with no worries on the opposite side of the street. She crosses the road just to get a closer look at the freak. He now balances a bottle of beer on his nose with one eye on the bottle and the other on the pro with the skirt. 3 tricks will do. The killer makes his move, and the knife once again reflects the light of the moon. Her knees get weak and her body falls, and all we hear in the streets are these laughing barks that if you would have been there, you would have sweared they came from your surrounding walls. The laughs are so many and so wicked that if you close your eyes, you hear laughing clowns harmonically barking, coming together in a strange tune that very soon disappears. All right, thank you. All right. We're also going live on Instagram, so we have a live Instagram stream going. We're live from WonderLost Gallery. Everybody, hello. Jesse Katz on upright bass. All right, this next piece goes like this. See the engraving on the stone? What fine engraving this is. All the emperors look so active in their carved image, as if dancing, almost moving. We call these emperors rabbits. There are 16 of them. Oh, but not here. Here on this sacred stone, there are only 15 engravings. The 16th rabbit was chipped out of this group. The 16th rabbit was the god of rain, and when you stare at his engravings, you notice goggles around his eyes, a tall round hat, and 2 feathers. And if you stare long enough, you would notice his hands, how they appear to be together as if praying. He didn't know. He did not know. He gave his team too much credit. Another Mayan city had been challenging them, and now they were ready. The 16th rabbit was confident his men would win. The day of the game came, and right before the game started, 3 beautiful Mayan virgins were sacrificed. They were sacrificed. Their mothers cried and cried, but deep inside, they understood. The game began, and a 4-pound leather ball would bounce back and forth from hips to knees, and it could not be touched by hands or feet. And the first team to get the ball through an upright structure would win. The losing team would lose their heads. The goggles that the 16th rabbit would wear did not help him foresee the oncoming tragedy. The first team that scored was not his team. And the first head to get chopped was his, and then one by one bleeding heads were dropped into the pit. So you see, the 16th rabbit was chipped out of this group, leaving only those 15 rabbits that came before him. And the only way our dear emperor could peacefully rest after his death was by getting chipped out of this sacred stone that weighs about a ton. And only 15 rabbits now dance the immortal dance. All right, that's the 16th rabbit, inspired by the Mayan ruins in Honduras. So I have a lot of family in Honduras. Beautiful country. If you guys ever get a chance to go visit the Mayan ruins, you get lost in the beauty of the archaeology of that Mayan city. And the photographs you can take there are also breathtaking. So this piece was inspired by that one, by going to the Mayan ruins and spending a few weeks there. It's a beautiful little town. So the city of Copan, and typical Spanish town with a church and a nice plaza, the city plaza. Beautiful place. All right, this next piece, it's of course inspired by love, right? And it's called Men and Women. It used to be called Women, but now it's Men and Women. Yesterday, I couldn't stop thinking about you. How you've been and where you were. I didn't know. I remember faces smiling and laughing. I remember your eyes. Oh, those lovely eyes of yours. I was a fool. Beautiful women have laid down with my books over my poems. They would let down their hair, but they were hardly aware of me. Where have they all gone to? The country road is nice and inviting, but it is not for me, not anymore. Constantly I think of you. You who left behind your guitar and your beautiful self engraved in my mind. But the evil men have now set their eyes on you, all of you. The women I love are no longer mine. The evil men are after them, and this is beyond my control. Without effort, I realize that a man constantly suffers, that his heart is as fragile as the feelings of a baby, that when involved with a woman he loves, his mind gets confused, he feels insecure, and he becomes more of a man when he conquers the heart of a different lady. Considering the fact that a man in confrontation with another, like an animal, he shows his teeth, he brings out his nails, he bites, he screams, he combs his hair, if he has any hair to comb. Realizing also that a man can get extremely sad, that he can become quiet as if about to cry, especially when he discovers that the women he loves are no longer mine. Marco Polo became aware of his lying wife. Seconds before the phone rang, he found himself crying. Violently, he picked up the phone and to her head it flew. Aggressive use of domestic hardware, she shouted at his deaf ears. Marco Polo became aware of his strength. Day and night, he pumped his muscles with his wife's anorexic body. Day and night, the phone landed on her head. But despite the abuse, she kept on visiting the soft pillow of this other man with whom she had fallen in love back in the days when she didn't know Marco Polo. Slayer of youth! Manipulator of my destiny, she repeated to herself while riding the bus. Almost like a meditation. She repeated all the things she felt for the aggressor. Hate, 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 and more hate grew on her hair. But she was happy. All right. Jesse Katz on upright pace. All right. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? All right. I mean, we're jumping from topic to topic here, you know. But this we'd like to close this piece, this little thing that Jesse and I are doing with this classic number. Written by William Shakespeare. And it goes like this. Yeah, maybe the hard walking bass, you know. Give me a little intro too if you want. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them. To die, to sleep no more, and to sleep to say we end the 1,000 heartaches. What a rogue and peasant slave am I. I say again, to be or not to be, that is the question, whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them. To die, to sleep perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub, for in that sleep of death what dreams may come. When we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause. There's a respect that makes calamity of so long life, for who would bear the whips and scorns of time? The oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of disprized love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit that the unworthy takes, when he himself might his quietus make with a bare buttkin, who would furrows bear to grunt and sweat under a weary life. But at the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns puzzles the will and makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others we know not of. Us, conscious, thus make cowards of us all. And thus the native hue of resolution is sicklied or with a pale cast of thought, and enterprises of great pitch and moment. With this regard, these currents turn awry and lose the name of action. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to jam out in front of you all. Thank you, WonderLost Gallery. Thank you, Raymond. Thank you, Charlene, for having us. Thank you, Jesse Katz on upright bass. Let's give him a hand.
So, Oscar.
Yes, sir.
And Jesse, why don't y'all answer a couple of questions that we might have along the lines of, where do you, we each have our own inspirations for our art, our own muses per se. Where does y'all's come from?
Well, yeah, so as far as this stuff goes, it's kind of just awesome to, first of all, be here with Oscar and get to, do this, because it's very, we, not, worked much of this stuff out. He sent me his poems, and I just kind of come up with what I come up with. But to answer your question, it's very much it really gets down to what's informed my concept on the instrument, because it's just what comes out naturally when I'm listening to Oscar. So really, as far as this stuff goes, a lot of Mingus, which I know Oscar loves. He's a great bass player, Charles Mingus, and then just really so many people on the instrument, Ray Brown, Paul Chambers, just people who get such a woody, kind of natural, earthy, soulful, as you said, sound. I guess that's where a lot of it comes from for me. And part of that's kind of what makes it work so well in the super raw format, because it really just gets down to the meat and bones of it.
Yeah, same thing for me. A lot of jazz music goes hand in hand with poetry. As you know, the beat poets took advantage of that opportunity, and they mixed reading out loud next to a live band, and it was a seamless combination. But when you're able to collaborate with musicians and bring together words that you wrote maybe at a moment where that you never thought you were going to share, because they were so personal, and as you got older, you were encouraged by your friends because your words were actually ringing with them, making sense to them. And so that validation that comes with maturing with your work, and then combining it with live music or with live dancers, it's part of that flexibility and gift that poetry has, and so and so of course there's many examples that we can use as inspirations, but to be able to bring it today and make it present, in 2022, and make it sound so antique but modern at the same time, it's really magic.
Yeah, I know. Music for a lot of people has a very, connection on the emotional level and whatnot. A lot of people turn to music for meditation, and it has a natural flow into your particular art. I always talk about it, you'll hear me talk about it, as that soul. With my art, it's the photography. When a photograph actually gets printed on paper, or in the case of Louis Valle, when it actually goes from kind of concept to actually there becomes kind of a soulful connection. It becomes alive. And, we take, as just viewers of this art or listeners of the art, we take that for granted, but it actually conveys quite a bit of emotion. And for you to sit down at an old-timey typewriter, for Louis to grab a can of spray paint, me to pick up a camera, or you to grab the bass, or even Mark Diamond here, to really take it into a three-dimensional world. That's where that question's really aimed at, is what inspires you to create this art that, whether you know it or not, is going to have such a meaningful connection. Bishops obviously connects with every person a little bit differently. And how does that work with you, and how does that help you to create the next piece?
Well, some poems, you had to write them because you needed to get the pain out, right? You needed to express a certain feeling. But the more you perform a piece that was written initially with a lot of pain, the more you perform it, the less pain it has. So the more poets perform a piece, the more they cleanse themselves from the origin of that piece. We distance ourselves from like the therapeutic action of writing it and getting rid of it, right? Putting it on paper, getting it out, to a performative therapeutic part where you perform it, and the performance, it's weird because, like you said, the connection is individual, but the piece, because it's such an intimate piece that it's universal. And so when you perform it, it's no longer mine, right? It's now the interpreter's. It's yours.
I'm going to say yes and no to that, because I've now had the opportunity to watch you, just like in these questions, when they start to come and you've got to kind of be improv and answer, just flow on your own, versus when you are actually performing your pieces. There's almost two different Oscars here. This one here, and then the performer. And it's amazing to watch that transformation. I don't know, y'all see that? And this is something that, I'm really trying to grasp at and go, hey, where does that transformation occur? What inspires it? And what really brings it out? Because the words you're saying and you are as much a part of the piece. If I got up there and memorized that poem and did the exact same thing, it would not nearly have the power that yours does.
Yeah.
And I would even bring that over to Jesse, and I could get up there and learn how to play the bass and everything, but that true soul and that true art behind it, it just doesn't have the same as when you're performing. I watched you also. When you start to play, you do the same thing. There's a transformation that occurs. And I bet if we were to go out and watch Lewis and watch some of the other artists and whatnot, when they truly encompass their art and become part of it, they change.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's the obvious division between, the person, the artist who is not performing, to when he's performing. When it's go time, It's go time, you know? Um, and, you know, I mean, you know, when you're performing, you're, like you said, you have memorized material, you have a mental script that you're following, you know? And that mental script can be, you know, stretched in many ways depending on who you're working with. But that script is there. Um, and also it has to do with how much experience you have doing this kind of stuff, you know. Um, and you know, some people, sometimes you can't tell when a person is performing and when they're not. Sometimes you see a very clear separation between the two, you know, and you know.
I would actually propose to say you cannot tell when somebody's not performing. So much in today's age, you know, it's a performance piece that they live 24/7 versus being their real selves.
Yeah.
You know, as a photographer, it's easy. I wouldn't say it's easy. I would say we have a clear definition, and when we go to take a photograph, and as a true artist, you actually can see that long before the camera ever comes to your eye. Do you think you have the same type of vision with your poetry? You know, you can see it clearly before it ever hits the paper?
With poetry, I personally don't. With poetry, it unfolds as I write it. You know, with poetry, it's something that comes, and you know, you have an idea, but it unfolds as you write it. You know, once you memorize it, and once it becomes a little solid in your mind, then you can actually, you know, cut and paste other pieces and have a mixture of different pieces in one. And then you can have a direction, you can have a vision into how you want to, you know, accommodate the sections of your piece, you know. But when you're writing it, you know, I mean, in my case, it just unfolds as it comes, you know.
Well, this kind of question right here is for both of you in a way. Do you ever feel like your hand is just kind of writing itself and writing the poem, playing the music? It's like you're not even there. You're just an instrument that, whether it be divine or what, there's something at play that's helping you create that.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's you know, I mean, it sounds cliche, but we are an antenna, you know, and receiving messages. But also those messages come with a kind of meditation that you're in, you know. So if you're always trying to you know, find peace within your heart, if you're calling some kind of transformation for yourself, then I think those messages are going to reflect that kind of change that you're trying to conjure, you know.
So if you could accomplish one thing with your art in the world, what would it be?
If I can accomplish one thing with my art in the world, heal as many people as I can.
Good answer. Jesse?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Probably still figuring that one out. But yeah, I think the short of it anyway is similar. Just bring joy to people. Like you said, like with music, is like people don't have to like understand anything about music to know how like something makes them feel when it hits them. So I think especially like in the musical realm, just to bring healing and joy.
Yeah, and
My art, yeah.
also, you know, in that self-expression, you know, we are creating art, you know, and you know, art is you know, the interpretation of the viewer's internal story, you know.
Yeah, it's not even you anymore.
No.
It is what the viewer is
Yeah.
pulling in,
Yeah.
most definitely.
Yeah.
I have a saying that people hear me say on a regular basis, and it kind of goes hand in hand with both of y'all's answers to that. And it is change a life, change the world. And it's through each of our capabilities you know, as artists that we have that capability to do. So I really appreciate what you do.
Yeah, thank you.
And,
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, really thank you. All right, guys, once again, thank you for coming out to WonderLost Gallery. Let's take a moment to remember Jonathan. He is really putting up a good fight. He's getting better daily. But he is somebody that's very special to us here at the gallery and to the community at large. He is what's helped build this to where it's at today. So everybody take a moment, remember him, send out those positive vibes, and let's get him back on his feet and back out here with us as soon as possible. Oscar, thank you very much.
Thank
Y'all
you.
have a good one.
Thank you.